Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to the latest episode of the Endless Celts Podcast. I don't know if this episode is going to last too long. I don't think there's too much to talk about, really. Some run-of-the-mill victory at the weekend and some Spanish mob coming to Parkhead. But I'm delighted to be joined by Francis and Anthony. Boys, how are you doing?
I've had worse weekends, John. I've had worse weekends.
I can imagine, aye.
I'm very well, mate. Still coming down off the high of Saturday, and on the other half of me's preparing for a special night tomorrow. Can't take much more of this, man.
Outstanding. So it's going to be a lot to talk about. I'm pretty sure it's going to be an episode positivity this evening. Donny mentioned here as well, Johnny Thompson, I think it was the anniversary. Is it his birthday?
Prince of goalkeepers.
Pass. I think it's his passing, mate.
He's passing, aye. So, God bless. But welcome in, everybody. Craig, Donny, Kenny, Egyptian, Brian, Pete, how you all doing?
Hail, everybody.
Monty.
Wonder if Pete's bloody steak bakes have cooked in, man.
Right, we got a story to tell about that.
Obviously, me, Ross and Tam went to Pete's bit to watch the football, and he put me pies and steak bakes on, and oh my god, so they burnt the throat off you, man. They burnt the throat off you. Turns out Pete's got a volcano for an oven.
So what's that? Volcano steak bakes, and what was it? The
pies and sausage rolls.
What was it you had? It was the halloumi.
I had pizzas and that, and halloumi, fries, and chicken.
Somebody thought it was raw chicken.
Aye, somebody thought it was raw chicken.
Outstanding. But guys, let's just move on to the subject at hand. Obviously, Saturday seen us come up against the other team for Glasgow in the derby. A game that we were confident going into it. I think off recent form, a lot of us were on a bit of high. We're scoring goals for fun. And I think we'd seen enough of the team so far this season that things were clicking, and any team that come up against us was going to get the brunt of it. A lot of the media would perceive it to be that their sternest test this season was going to be the Rangers, and it turned out that 4-0 victory and taking your foot off the gas is... What is it Barry Ferguson says? Somebody want to quote me what Barry Ferguson says?
Before he said Gio's got Ange Postecoglou sussed, and then after he said, I still believe he's got him sussed or something.
There you go.
As Ross said, didn't he back down, doubled in.
Moon howling at its finest, boys.
But from sticking by it, but I mean, a wee bit you got to credit him from just sticking to his guns, man.
It's egg in your face if you didn't. He has to do it, but and equally, he's made himself sound even more stupid. So,
I know.
Again, thanks to everybody that's coming in, Alistair. But let's go into this game. Anthony, you were at the game. I'll come at you first. 4-0. I mean, I know coming into the game we were confident. Did you see us coming out the other end of that quite as comfortable as we did?
No, I was on Friday night, John, with Stephen and Ross, and the three of us were trying to kind of keep the enthusiasm curtailed, but we all were sort of saying that we weren't feeling nervous, and that particularly could, we didn't want to end up with egg on our faces. But I have to say, even I slept like a baby the night before, woke up, didn't get any nerves beforehand, and I think by the time I got into the game, I couldn't foresee a way in which we weren't leaving with the 3 points. You can just sense, people that were there on Saturday will tell you the same. You can sense sometimes when it's just going to be one of their days. I had the same feeling back in February when, we had a very similar performance against them. And even in the pre-match warm-up, looking over at Rangers training up, doing their warm-ups and stuff, they just did not look like they were really in the zone, whereas Celtic just, even, as I say, even in the build-up, just looked absolutely up for it, raring to go for the start. And obviously that magnificent tifo display for the North Curve was absolutely incredible. And
imagination.
Yeah, just for the moment that the teams came out, I turned to my dad and says, if we score early here, this could end up really being anything. And then within a couple of minutes, we were celebrating the first goal. And there's the parallels are quite striking between Saturday and the game back in February. We just didn't let Rangers into the game at all. We absolutely steamrolled them. And like you guys are saying about, don't back down, double down. Some of the revisionist rhetoric on one level of the Rangers' reaction's been hilarious, and the fact that apparently we hadn't played anyone. This was going to be our big test. Some people are now saying that this result had been coming for weeks. So it's like, well, but at least we can say to Barry Ferguson, at least he's actually sticking by his opinion. It just so happens that his opinion is utter nonsense. But no, there are some things in life you never tire of doing, and scudding Rangers in whichever forum they're in, be it the original or the bootleg, it's a very enjoyable way to spend an afternoon.
No, absolutely, mate. And I think that one of the things that makes it even more enjoyable is this is a Rangers side who ultimately last season definitely played Ansdown, and then got a wee bit of a wake-up call once we won the League Cup double. But this season, it was much more of the same. They'd obviously come off the back of a season where they got to a Europa League final. They got some big results against the likes of Dortmund and that, and they obviously beat PSV to qualify for the Champions League. And there was a lot of hot air being blown by the fans saying that this was going to, like, that they're going to show us what a real team is and all the rest of it. We've been playing naivety up until this point. But Francis, coming to you, I mean, obviously a 4-0 result was fantastic, let's be honest. But were you hoping for more, or did you feel it could have been more?
Well, before I kind of go into it, before I came on, I had a wee message for Jed just to remind everybody that he predicted 4-0. He's just he's heading over on holiday, so he'll not actually catch it tonight. So he asked me to give a wee nod to his prediction. He's predicting 2-1 in the Real Madrid game just before. Did
they put a bet on?
I don't know. Maybe need to message him, John. I never actually.
Jed, he's in the chat, Jed.
Has he? Tell me he wasn't listening.
There he is.
Tell me he wasn't listening.
Evening, Jed. Jed, you've got a wee shout out there for Francis, obviously predicting the score right. I hope you put a bet on, mate, because I'd imagine that'd be a nice wee return. And enjoy your holiday. Bye, Franny, continue.
I mean, I was a wee bit, I wouldn't say totally the opposite to Anthony. I think it's fair to say that me and Stephen kind of were a wee bit different for the rest of these, in the sense that some of you are a wee bit more pragmatic and stuff like that. And whereas me and Stephen can be a wee bit more on instinct and jump to not conclusions, but we kind of were in the moment a wee bit more. So I was the normal sort of, not as nervous as any other derby, but there was nerves still there. I slept fine. I actually did sleep surprisingly really well. I think I was sleeping for 8 o'clock, 8:30 on Friday night, to be honest with you. Got up about 6 when the wind got up. But so I had a good sleep in that. But it was before the game, like Ross and that were having a drink, and I was struggling until, like, I think I had one drink up until the third goal. And then after that, I was fine. I managed to sort of, honestly, it was once Abada's goal went, the third goal went, and that's when I proper relaxed. As good as the performance was, like, I think after, like you said, after the first goal, what's this? I probably will be, to be honest.
I've not sobered up for the weekend, Monty.
But even after the start we had, and Abada's goal, like, obviously, a lot of the time, it's a cliche that the first goal is always key in these games, and the way we started, and then obviously getting Abada's goal should have made me more relaxed, but I wasn't. But as I say, it was once that third goal went in, that was me, John. I totally relaxed, and then I was actually talking to my dad earlier, and he was like, "Oh, I wish we kept on going. I wish we kept on going." And I was like, I mean, I'd put it on the chat about it. A bit of me wishes they did keep going, but I think see constantly going at a Dundee United or a Ross County, that's, in a way, that's fine, but I think it's more humiliating to stop against Rangers and say, "Okay, we've got a big game, coming up, in that we've just got to play within ourselves here." And I kind of believe they did that a wee bit. They thought, well, we've got a big game on Tuesday now. This 45 minutes, this game's done now. I mean, let's not do anything silly in that. Let's just play our way through the second half. Didn't give them any wee sniff of getting in it, but it was a fantastic performance. And then we've all seen obviously the mic'd up session and stuff, and see the folk that have actually put that mic'd up session, then put like that game after it just that mic'd up session epitomises that game. Like the first 3 goals, Rangers have switched off for the first goal, they've switched off for the short corner, then they switch off for the shy. In the space of 10, I don't even know if it's 10 seconds, but 2 passes, you play 2 set pieces in the space of seconds, have switched off. The free kick for Jota's goal, they've totally switched off. And then again, Abada's, they've switched off again for O'Reilly to cross it into the back post. 3 opportunities where Ange said, if the opposition want to stop, that's fine. And that's what happens.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the things that you mentioned there, which I was actually going to raise as one of the points, so it's a nice wee segue into it. I'll just go straight in. You mentioned, obviously, by the end of the first half, I think we more or less had that game put to bed. As long as we made sure we'd done what we needed to do in the second half, it was a foregone conclusion. But you mentioned like taking, obviously Ange's mic'd up session, the whole "we never stop" rhetoric, and the ethos built around Celtic at the minute with this, it's like it's constant. You're barraging teams for 90 minutes. One of the things that sort of surprised me is it did look like the second half we did kind of take the foot off the gas a wee bit, which kind of doesn't sort of play to that. We still sort of controlled the game, but it wasn't as relentless as it was in the first half. And I think a lot of us were kind of thinking it could have been more if we'd sort of maintained that same sort of level. But like you mentioned, you've got a massive, absolutely massive Champions League game coming up against the holders, and you want to make sure guys aren't burnt out for that. So do you think Anthony, just coming to you first, do you think Ange maybe says to them at half-time, because we already had a 3-goal lead, like keep doing what you're doing, but like maybe just drop a couple of gears?
Yeah, that seemed to be, they were shooting down the way that me and my dad sit in the second half. And yeah, I think it was just very much a case of like nothing daft. See the game out. You've seen about the substitutions that came on as well. We bring in Moy, Turnbull on. We made a raft of substitutions all at the same time. And Moy does what Moy does. He recycles the ball. He keeps things tidy. There's no panic. The odd time Rangers did sort of break forward. You had the likes of CCV at the back, Greg Taylor, who I thought had another absolutely magnificent game, and Juranovic, who just didn't let up all afternoon as well, both with his feet and with his mouth. It was absolutely brilliant to watch. He just wound up all his opponents absolutely brilliantly. There was a brilliant bit near the end when Tavernier and Goldson were trying to, they were really trying to sort of goad the referee into something, and Juranovic was actually laughing at them, and then he made the gesture with his 4 fingers, just to remind them what the score was, because counting the numbers has never been Rangers' strong point. But it's just we absolutely tore them apart the first half. As I said, the parallels were very much there with the match in February, John. And there are times when I totally get what Franco's saying. You can go, a bit of a silly analogy, but it's just in terms of, try to give a comparison. Back in '67, when Scotland played England down at Wembley, when we were, I think at the time it was 3-1 at the time, Jim Baxter kept the ball up 3 or 4 times, a bit like what Rich Arlison did for Tottenham a couple of weeks ago. And in years to come, he's always criticised for it, and he says, he went, what did I do wrong, sort of thing. And it's the whole thing of England were there for the taking. You could have won by 4 or 5. And Baxter's response to that was, trust me, son, it's always better to take the piss. And I think that's what we did second half. It was just, if we need to go for a 5th or a 6th, we will do it. But keep my energy for the big game.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly looked that way, and like you said, Francis, it definitely seemed that we did sort of drop a gear. But I want to just touch on, first, just before we get into the goals, obviously, thankfully, it's been confirmed today he was in training, everything's fine, but Kyogo's injury, he collided with Lundstrom. I don't think there was any intent in it, obviously, but Lundstrom, as we know, is he's an animal, he's a dirty player, and everything he seems to touch either comes out bleeding, injured, and he seems to get away with quite a lot. But Kyogo obviously went off within the first 3-4 minutes. It was.
It was even before that, John. Well, the challenge itself was in the first minute.
Yeah. Because he thought he could play on, and obviously it was giving him a bit of jip.
Third or fourth minute before it went off.
Yeah. My initial concern was, if you remember Taylor last year, was out for quite a while. Like, I don't know what exactly done to his shoulder, but I was thinking to myself, maybe Kyogo's done the same, and he's got after an absolute flyer this year. So there's a bit of worry. But when you look at it, and it's like all we've got then is really Giakoumakis. Like, if Kyogo, thankfully he's fine and he's in training and he looks like he's going to be available for the Madrid game. But was there some concern that maybe we didn't have another option at striker? I know we've got all the faith in the world in Giakoumakis doing the job, and we know he can score goals. So that's not a problem. But it seems to be the one position for me where we don't have the same level of depth as other areas of the park. Were you, like I said, were you concerned at all?
Was that for Franny, or was that for myself?
Sorry, I've totally missed you saying my name then, John. Sorry. Apologies.
Anthony, what do you think?
I mean, watching the game, my first instinct was, oh no, but more so, obviously, when you see him holding his shoulder, try to come back on. I mean, when you see any player going off injured, then try to come back on and going off within minutes, it's never great. It doesn't look great. So I was a wee bit worried then. And then also, as much as, like you say, John, we can trust Giakoumakis, and especially in this fixture, we've seen what he done in February. We know how much an influence he can be in that game. But initially I was like, oh, minute down, game plan. I mean, me sitting 1 minute saying Postecoglou's a great manager, then one player goes off and I'm sitting going, oh, the game plan's that's a way to pot, really, when really it maybe was it a blessing in disguise, because we know how well Giakoumakis can play in this fixture. It's a hard argument to advance when Kyle only played a minute of the game. And I'm actually surprised at you, John, when you said it was a collision. If you've obviously only seen the game once, because there's no way that was a collision. I mean, as Ross said after the challenge went in, not just Rangers have been told first challenge you get through them, like get the foot in. I mean, it's a booking all day long. That
do you think?
And
so?
you
I mean, there was definitely a collision. I'll not debate that, but I don't think there was any intent.
I think if you watch the challenge,
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me because Lundstrom did dirty bastard.
This Lundstrom, they're actually portraying him to be this false hard man. I can never remember him being a hard man down in England, but I think he had 5 or 6 challenges and never gets booked. It's horrendous. The thing is, what's that? What's he saying?
It's a question about the VAR coming in and whether or not
that would
played a part. That's something I'm actually going to touch on as well, because there's a lot of greeting about it, but we'll get to that.
But the Giakoumakis one, I'm not too worried about our options, because obviously, I mean, maybe the quality after Giakoumakis, say Kyle was obviously out through it, the quality after Giakoumakis maybe isn't there in a sense, but Maeda can fill in there and we know do a decent enough job. Abada, if needed, can come in there. We're led to believe Haksabanovic can maybe fill in there. But I appreciate, obviously, after Kyle and Giakoumakis, the standard maybe does drop a wee bit, but you could say that for any position in any team. When you start going to like the third choice player in that position, standard hasn't got to be as good as the first two. But I think you've got to credit the team, credit the fans as well at the game, because you've seen they could have maybe been on edge and a wee bit nervous after Kyogo going off, but you just seen Giakoumakis there shrugged the shoulders. They knew what was coming on. They knew this guy's not got to get bullied. He'll show them. He'll show them what it's about. And I don't know if you can remember the one against Sands. It absolutely chucks him into, like, it was a shoulder challenge, but it was just first chance you get Giakoumakis. He just chucked him into next week. Absolutely just battered him off the park. And then he's a bit of a bastard, Giakoumakis, and he's a bit like Juranovic, are always in the ref's ear, and I love it for it, because I think under Gerrard we were starting to maybe get bullied in games, and even McGregor now, and you've got Giakoumakis and Juranovic, so they're not there to be bullied. I think we bully them a wee bit now.
No, I fully agree with that, and I think, like you say, Kyogo almost becomes a target because he is a much smaller guy, and like we've seen him since he came to Celtic, he has been a target. He's been kicked up and down the place, and we've seen it quite a lot of times. So, Anthony, is Kyogo, or like I said, he's not injured. Everything seems to be okay. But was there concern for you, or do you think it might be a concern for Kyogo going forward?
No, I think the biggest testament you can give, Ange, is, and that's just shows you how far we've come in such a short space of time. Around Christmas time last year, we were so short in numbers, and the likes of Kyogo being out for any sort of prolonged period of time, gave you the heebie-jeebies. But we've got such a depth in squad now, and we've seen Giakoumakis from the start of the season. Every time, I think he scored every game he's come on. I might be right with that, or he's certainly at least played very well when he's came on. So you obviously had you were worried in terms of Kyogo just for how long could he be out for, etc. But on the actual day itself, I mean, I'll be honest, on the way through, although I picked Kyogo on my Friday night team, I did sort of think that when you seen the partnership up at the back for Rangers, that basically Giakoumakis, the game was tailor-made for him, and he can go and put himself about in ways that Kyogo can't. And listen, the big man, he didn't get on the score sheet, but he absolutely delivered on Saturday. He was absolutely superb for the minute he came on. It's good news. It appears to be. I don't know if Kyogo's going to be fit for tomorrow, but regardless, it doesn't look like it's as bad as what it potentially could have been. So, even if it maybe does miss even a couple of games, you still have Giakoumakis in there, obviously, as the first pick. Maeda can play in there. Haksabanovic is still to get a proper run in the team. He might just have to play out his normal position for a little while. So, yeah, I think we're well covered, and we've certainly got the firepower to, keep this show on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Fair points. So let's move on to the goals. This is the crux. The conversation is going to be about these goals. Abada. There was a lot said before the game whether or no who would be the best option to start. I don't think anybody really said that they would prefer one over the other. Either or was a good choice. But there's been a lot of discussion about whether or no Maeda, because at the first few games of the season, Maeda seemed to be the first choice. Abada's had a start in the last couple of games. Do you think he done enough with the 2 goals he scored, first of all, to sort of cement himself as the first name on the team sheet in that position? Anthony?
I don't really think it. Perhaps out with Callum McGregor, maybe CCV, possibly Kyogo. I don't actually really think there's a guaranteed first starter in that. Apart from that, maybe Jota, to be fair. But at the moment,
so far you've named about 7.
all being well. But I think the likes of Abada, Maeda, Haksabanovic, they're all going to get more than their fair share of opportunities in the team. I think Abada's started the last 3, and Maeda's had to be content with a place on the bench. But the thing is, and all Abada can do when he's picked is deliver on the pitch, and he's absolutely done that. I mean, Saturday he was absolutely magnificent. I mean, I think, again, going back to Friday night, me, Ross and Stephen all picked Maeda. I thought he would have went with Maeda just purely to nullify the threat of Tavernier on the right-hand side. Sort of just for, he would track back perhaps a little bit more than what Abada would. That was their thought behind it. But that's the reason why we're on a podcast and Ange Postecoglou gets to make those kind of decisions, because it shows you what we know. But he was absolutely, couldn't fault him against Inverness, couldn't fault him, not Inverness, Ross County, couldn't fault him the week before at Tannadice, and he's kept up that for him with 2 tremendous goals and a fantastic performance against the bootleg Rangers. So, you can't ask for any more. I just think the way that the team's set up now, nobody's going to really be given, not guaranteed first starts, but necessarily extended runs in the team. The pressures of going in and competing on 3-4 fronts means you're going to have people constantly fresh. All Abada can do is deliver when he's asked to feature, and he's absolutely done that so far this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Francis, would you agree with that statement?
I think Anthony's kind of bang on the money there. Like, I would have probably if you asked me on Friday, I would have probably lumped for Maeda as well, simply for the same argument Anthony, and that was advancing just to keep Tavernier pushed back. But equally, Abada is like, we know, with not just against Celtic, but Barisic does seem to struggle defending that back post, and Abada has got an absolute great knack of being in at the back post at the right time. Like, he's, for a 20-year-old laddie, he just knows where he plays that position, like the sort of right of the front three, brilliantly. He knows where he needs to be at specific times, and like, he's clearly just been coached for a young level, just like a sponge. He's just soaked it all in.
I mean, he's still only 20.
Well, that's what I was going to say, Joe. He's 20-year-old. You've got to credit this guy's mental strength to come over to a new country at 19, not really knowing anybody. We obviously have a relationship, or could form a relationship with Beaton, we both being Israeli and stuff, and that may have helped him settle in a wee bit. But I mean, you just need to look at what he done last season, and it's good to see. I appreciate it's a few games in, but it looks like last season isn't got to be a one-hit wonder for him. It looks like he's a proper player. And like you say, he can't do any more to really ask the question to say, look, or to say, I'm your number one guy out there. I'm the guy that needs to be there. But like Anthony said, and like we'll all say, it's Ange's about the team, it's about the collective. I don't think, out with the guys Anthony's mentioned, like Joe Hart, nobody really get maybe 10, 12, 13 games starting on the bounce. I think it will be maybe half a dozen you'll get, and you'll be back out, and you'll be coming on the 60, 70 minute mark and things like that. I just think the way we press and how we press and the energy and how long we need to play for it, I just think the way sports science is in that as well these days, I just don't see guys like Abada, and I bring Jota into that equation. I think there'll be games where they just miss out for one or two games and they'll drop out the bench. But he's certainly, when he's been asked the question this season about his position, because it seemed accepted that Abada would be the one that it falls out for Maeda. And for me, like, Maeda, I think, is an Ange type player in the sense that he's clearly what Ange likes, just that work rate, closing down, knowing how to close down is great. But then Abada, it just shows you the character of players that Ange has always said he likes, the character that nobody takes a huff. Abada comes in, scores a hat-trick one week, has a decent game against Ross County, then scores 2 goals on Saturday against your rivals. So I think everybody in the team just knows their role within the team, doesn't take, if they're in one week but not the next week, there's no huffs. It's they know the end goal and they're all in it together. So, well, Abada, as I say, Abada can only continue to perform and do what he's doing.
Yeah.
And it's no more they can do, and I think you've just got to credit a guy for that.
No, absolutely, and I think it's thoroughly deserved credit as well. And he just seems to be coming on leaps and bounds. And like we mentioned, he's only 20, and the guy, his ceiling, it seems limitless at the minute. He doesn't seem like he's even hit, like, he's not going to get any better than he is now. There's still so much potential in him to unlock. I just want to touch on this comment. I've left this comment up because Alistair made a point. Obviously, when he scored that goal and he got hold of that T-shirt and he was showing the cameras, this is a sign of a player that's obviously not just... It's easy for footballers to maybe get lost in the sport itself, and a lot of them are out of touch with some of the fans at the club as well. But these guys coming into Celtic seem to be buying into not just Ange and the club, but everything, top to bottom, right through at the club, including the fans and some of the statements that they're making and things like that. Do you think that is down to... Well, I mean, you could say Ange is like kind of crux of it, but what do you think is it about the Ange and the club as a whole, Anthony, where these guys are they're paying attention to what the fans are talking about? They're aware of the goings on around the club and the sort of ethos surrounding the club and everything else?
I just think it just shows you that the players want to be there, and that they're invested in what goes on, not just on the pitch, but around the club as well. You see it at full time a lot of times recently, when they're celebrating with the fans on the pitch, and it's not like they're trying to get off the park as quick as they can. They want to be involved. They want to be part of it because, it's a short career, football, and, the game's littered with players that wanted to get out of Celtic, couldn't get out of Celtic quick enough, and very much lived to regret it. And in Ange Postecoglou, managers as well, it has to be said. But I do think that there is a cohesion at Celtic at the minute between the manager, between the supporters and the players. They all just want to, they're all invested in the club being as successful and as big as it possibly can be. Yeah. And at this moment in time, things are pretty, rosy in the garden at the moment. So of course it's always going to, you're going to have that feel good factor regardless. But I do think pretty much from when Ange's came in the building, there did seem to be just a change in the atmosphere. Ange's own story very much mirrors a lot of the original Celtic supporters, and their stories, travelling overseas, etc. So there's just, it's a match made in heaven at the moment, John, and let's just hope it continues for as long as it does, because a Celtic Park or a Celtic support cheering on a successful Celtic team is always a joy to behold.
No, absolutely. But I think one of the reasons and why I wanted to bring it up specifically is there's a lot of talk about this Ange team, and a lot of people are saying that this is maybe the best team that they've ever, the Celtic team that they've seen in terms of the style of football we're playing. It's as close to what it was when Burns was the manager. And then you've got obviously the comparisons with Rodgers and his invincible season, and then going back to O'Neill's team, which all different styles, absolutely. But like, what's the sort of best team you've seen? But what I did notice is, at least for me anyway, it seems that this Celtic side under Ange is the most invested in the club than I've seen prior or through any other sort of era that I've sort of came up in. And I think that's testament to, I think Ange, because of his background and everything else like that, is sort of instilling that in them. Make sure that not only are they playing it, because Ange seems to have this sort of philosophy that obviously he understands the size of Celtic, and he understands how big the club is and what it means to the fans. And Ange said it himself about the fans. The fans are, like Jock always says, but football without the fans is nothing. Ange is aware of this, and he knows that Celtic is built on that. And do you think it's something, Franny, that he is sort of instilling these players to make sure not only you're just coming in to play to do a job in terms of playing football, but do you think he's maybe getting the players and sitting them down and saying, look, learn about the club, learn about its history and what it means to these people? Because it seems to me that that's what's happening, because these guys have an understanding or a belief that they're saying, like I said, no other O'Neill's team that it wasn't the same. Rodgers wasn't the same. It's players now just seem to be buying into it, and I think it runs deeper than just the style of football.
It's hard one to really answer that, Joe, because I mean, it's evident. The evidence is all there to say that it's clear that they do enjoy playing for this club. That they do look like they're invested in it. Like Anthony says, there's never seems to be a rush, regardless of the calibre of game. There's never a rush to get off the park. I think Postecoglou, I mean, the players have got to take a lot of credit for it, but I think personally, I don't know if myself, I'm thinking it maybe comes back to Postecoglou signing the character. Obviously, you've got to be a decent player, but he wants to sign the right character as well. And I think that has a lot to do with where he knows people will buy into the club. And then obviously, if they're buying into the club, they'll maybe look a wee bit into the history and they'll get involved with the fans. And obviously, for style, it is up there with Tommy Burns' side. I mean, it's probably Tommy Burns is probably the best footballing side I've seen for Celtic in my memory anyway. Martin O'Neill's team were just ridiculous, just a winning machine, absolute winning machine, and had players like Larsson, Sutton, Hartson, and Lambert, things like that. Had really, really good players. Then obviously got your invincible team. Is maybe a wee bit of recency bias coming in it. Recency bias. I'm talking like Stephen here now, man. Don't even care what I'm trying to say. But I don't know if that's maybe coming into it a wee bit, but definitely footballing wise, they blow Rodgers' team out the water. They connect with the fans. Going back to that, like social media wasn't so big back when even in a Neil's team. So is that maybe played a part with the? I wouldn't say there was a disconnect between the fans and stuff when Neil was there. I think he brought a connection with the fans, but certainly Ange is a very intelligent man, and he says all the right things, and I he believes everything he says and stuff, and he knows the right things to say. And I think the fact that he's not let the media get the better of him as well, I think that's helped him. And it's smart answers he gives back, but he doesn't say it like a dick in that. He's no, he just bats him away. And even we hear it with the players and that now. You hear Jota's interview after the game, and he was asked off the BBC if they thought that was the season finished. He was like, he pretty much laughed at the guy. He was like, come on now, it's September. He was saying this last year when Rangers beat us and they were ahead of us and that, then we overtook them. He was like, what's it with seasons finished in September here? There's a lot of football to play. So they're all saying the right things, and I think it's a key component to a successful team is having that connection with the fans. And we all say that under the COVID season that there was a massive disconnection there between the fans and the club. And maybe Ange looked at that and was like, well, this is a way to get me back on side or give me time, because there was a massive job to do. So if he can get that connection with the fans, it maybe bides him a wee bit time when obviously the start of the last season didn't go great for him. But it obviously gives you that credit in the bank because the fans are on your side. The fans can see what you're trying to do. They see you're making a connection with them and investing yourself in the club. So I honestly didn't know, John. There is a clear connection there with everybody now. And like Anthony, like everybody, you just want the guy to be there for as long as he can. I've never. It's a weird thing to say, but I've never wanted us to win for a manager so much in my life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And this is why I wanted to raise that sort of point, because there's been a couple of guys saying that in this one as well. He brings that sort of feeling back to Celtic, and the players, every single one of them, it doesn't matter who they are or where they come from, they seem to get invested, and they're actually. They seem to be playing for the shirt, and they know what it means. And I think that's.
I mean, Jota's even researching the IRA. Fucking some sites, if you believe some things you read in Twitter.
Aye. But let's go into that not only his celebration, but his goal, right? O'Reilly's pass, first and foremost. Let's not forget this pass. O'Reilly's pass to find Jota was absolutely phenomenal. That was top draw. Like that's a kind of pass like a Xavi or Iniesta would be proud of. And then Jota, I William said in the group chat, was phenomenal, made me laugh. But his first touch seemed a bit heavy, and you're like, oh no. But the way he took it, and then the finish itself, there's a lot of comparisons being made to. Obviously, I think for a lot of Celtic fans, that Larsson goal, the chip over Kloss is the be all and end all for Celtic fans in terms of goals against them. But that one is in contention now for me, and it's everything from the pass, the build up, the pass, and then the finish itself. Anthony, just coming to you first. What did you make of the finish, and do you think that Jota is, as everybody's saying, maybe too good for the SPFL?
I'll be in terms of the goal itself. I don't even think the stadium didn't even really go. You know when you go 2-0 up against Rangers and it's normal, it's utter bedlam, and it was obviously, but it wasn't quite as chaotic for the second goal as what it normally would be, because I think so many people were just in utter disbelief of what they'd just witnessed. I certainly was anyway. It took a sort of extra second or two to properly kind of register what you'd just seen the guy do. It was absolutely, like you say, John, I mean, everyone will always probably say, Henrik's chip for our generation of fans, but yep, Jota, that one is right up there for me. Just the technique, the awareness, the pass, like you say, from O'Reilly himself, just totally takes the Rangers defence unaware. And it's just an outrageous bit of skill for Jota to score. Some of the weeping and gnashing of teeth for some of their forums afterwards has been utterly hilarious to watch. If you think Jota's studying paramilitary, kind of setups to celebrate a goal, then you believe that, you believe anything. But it was a great goal. It was an iconic celebration. and it was just part of a wonderful, wonderful day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like you said, I think that celebration in itself is going to be that image of him. Just the way there's one specific image of him that's just sort of side on, just at his back, for his left side. I think the one that's.
I think it's your profile picture on Facebook.
I did make it my profile picture on Facebook.
I was like, geez, John's looking all right these days.
I grew my hair back. That's what it was. But listen, he's very, very quickly endeared himself to. I'm sorry about this. Camera's gone mental. Endeared himself to the Celtic
Stephen DLN's laptop, aye.
It's actually I borrowed your phone. No, listen. Jota has endeared himself to the support. We spoke on it when we signed him. Benfica letting him go for the price they did was an absolute steal for us. They don't know what Benfica were thinking. I've got friends from Portugal who are Benfica fans that were absolutely. They were screaming. They were shouting at me like it was my fault as well when I was asking about them. I was like, when we first signed Jota, I was like, "What can you tell me about him?" They were like, "He's a young guy. He's great. He's got a good future. He's going to be one of Benfica's greats." And then obviously he's turned out he signed for us permanently. They weren't happy about it. But he's endeared himself to the Celtic support, Francis, and he's sort of already gaining this sort of icon status at the club, and he could very well. It's sad to sort of say, but we know the kind of the environment that we're sort of in terms of money. That if a club comes in, they're going to need to offer us something absolutely phenomenal in order to pry him away from us. But just going that aside, you can touch on that at the end of what I'm asking. But the goal itself and the celebration, do you think that goal was up there with Larson's and what is this sort of opinion on Jota as a whole and what he's sort of becoming at Celtic at the minute?
I thought will it become as iconic as Larson's? It's hard. We're talking about Larson here. It's the king, man. It's the king you're trying to compare him with, but it certainly was a magnificent goal, John. Really, really good goal. Like the pass for O'Reilly. Inch perfect. Like Jota's not had to break stride. One touch, and then it's just, as Ross said, nonchalant, just chips it over. And is it actually the ball's no went in, and Jota's away celebrating? Is that he knows just what he's done? And like I say, the celebration. We had that moment last season after the Dundee United game. During when Abada scored in the Dundee United game, where we seen. Obviously Jota ran out into the fans. He was like, "That's we had that iconic picture." But that celebration, that's just going to blow it out of the water. It is such an iconic moment. But what I liked about it as well, obviously, when the rest of the team come over to celebrate with him, you actually see him kind of look up, and he's obviously looking towards the Rangers fans. And he's just got a nice wee grin in his face. That was brilliant. It was absolutely brilliant. I actually just liked the way he just sat there, like just stood there and grinned at them. But Jota this season, I think the fact that he's here permanently, not that he didn't perform last season, but I think now that he knows where his future lies for however long he wants it to be at Celtic, hopefully it'll be well, but he knows where his future is. So I think that's gave him confidence to take his game on a wee bit, take the risks. What Ange likes his players to do is take risks, and I certainly taken his game to a different level. And the big test will obviously be for Europe, but I think he's made for it. I absolutely think he'll love playing in Europe for us. I know obviously done it last season, but I think the Champions League, I think he's really got to. It's his level, and I don't know what to be one of these folk like the other half of Glasgow that it seem to rejoice in transfer fees, and I've got this big thing about how much they get for players and like to celebrate it. But I believe he's got the potential
or how much they think they're going to get for players.
I think he'll be more than keen if he performs the way he has been in the Champions League. I think he'll go for more than the Tierney money. As much as I didn't want him to go, I think we're talking that kind of money. We're talking
easily.
Silly. I think we're talking silly money for him.
I mean, if he's playing in England, or he's playing in Spain, or he's playing in Italy,
well, he's the best Jota in Britain, isn't he?
listen, current form, absolutely is.
100%.
And like I said, if he's playing anywhere other than Scotland, you're talking astronomical figures, silly money. You wouldn't be. I mean, you could, if somebody says to him, he was, let's just say he was playing for a Manchester United, right, and then he was getting signed off another team. You're talking. If somebody says, he was gone for about 70 million, you wouldn't bat an eyelid. You'd be like that.
Try to remember that player Wally mentioned that I think he went in transfer deadline day, hardly kicked the ball for a team and he's went for 40 million or something. I think Wolves did Wolves buy somebody for 40 million or they sell somebody for 40 million or something? It's hardly kicked the ball and you're like...
Absolute nonsense. And I think that because he is with us permanently, it's something we should obviously keep in mind. Don't let clubs take us for mugs. I don't think we're in a position at the minute where we need to, finance-wise, we're in a healthy position. And we don't need to sell, and this is the thing. So it's like, if they don't want to be here and they definitely want to go, then fine, fair enough.
I think that's when we'll get rid of Bhoys.
But as it stands at the minute, with the cohesion we've got through the team, the way we're playing, the fact that these guys are buying into the club, that they're becoming fans themselves, they're endearing themselves to the fans and the club as a whole, and everything just comes full circle. It's like, why would you want to leave? And we've seen it previously with other guys. It's like they've done absolutely fantastic things for this club, and then they've moved on, and it's not been quite so fruitful. The grass isn't always greener on the other side, is a term that people like to say. We saw it with the likes of Gary Hooper and other guys. I mean, we could sit here and probably brainstorm and come out with a number of names that have left us and then have kind of fallen off a bit. They've no meaning. But I think also we need to be realistic, and gone are the days where players like Bruni, and we might see it with Kalmack, but like Larson and all that's time for 7-8 years or whatever the case is, because of the way the market is at the minute. But if you can hold on to him, like he says, for 4 or 5 years, then you're absolutely going to demand an astronomical fee from him. Let's just talk about the fourth goal, right? This is some I want to see the goal again, but or the Benny Hill theme. McLaughlin's pass to Turnbull, by the way, was absolutely phenomenal. I don't know what was going through his head. It was another one of the what's the goal a day in Tom moments. Anthony, could you believe that that they turned off that much and they were so switched off? Do you think it was a nerves thing? Were they just not paying attention? Had they just given up? Or was it a case of like or is it just a case these guys really aren't as good as they think they are?
I think it was just one of those things. It happens. Do you know what I mean? It happens to every goalkeeper. John McLaughlin didn't have as bad a game as what is getting made out a lot in the press. He got a lot of stick for the first goal as well. But I actually think when you see the power that Abada gets on it, I get that he'll be disappointed as a keeper for not getting it, but he actually did make a couple of decent saves in the second half, especially. But he didn't have any chances with goals 2 and 3, but 4, it's just one of those. It was in his eyes, he's had a bad day at the office, and he's just totally not put enough on it to get to the Rangers player that he was trying to get it to, and you just can't do that around the likes of David Turnbull because he'll pounce and he'll punish you, and it was just the icing on the cake on what was a great day.
Absolutely. Franny, what did you make it? What was your thoughts when you seen it?
It was just like Anthony said that it happens, John. It was one of the ones, and I think again credit has to go to Celtic the way we press. It was obviously let them have the couple of passes at the back between, I think it was him and Golds, and then it was you just sees like obviously Turnbull and Giakoumakis shuffling up into their positions they need to be in before they're going to have a like properly shut it down. And I think it's Davis that has asked for it, and the pass is never on. You've got to kind of fire it and or try and chip it over Turnbull, but the pass was never on. It's like I say, it was one of the moments, an absolute brain freeze for the keeper. Couldn't have laid it on any more of a plate for Turnbull because, like as I say, the pass wasn't even played with any pace or something. Turnbull could have probably hit it first time if he really wanted to, but he had the freedom of Parkhead to just take the touch and score. And I'm glad we did get a goal in the second half because it stopped Rangers winning we drew the second half trophy.
Aye. Listen, I don't know actually, and I think Sky made an absolute arse of it, but they showed the stats at the end of the game, and it was showing like Rangers had more possession, more shots on goal. I was like, Sky need to get their fucking shit sorted out.
I believe they might have. I can understand the argument for more possession. I can, because I think the second half they had a lot of possession, but it's weird they had possession. They had it.
But what did find funny? But what I did find funny, and this is hilarious, Kyogo was on the park less than 3 minutes, as we know, got a match rating of 5 by Sky. The entire Rangers team, bar Kolak, who got a 5, was 3 or 4. So, I mean, that just shows you the sort of level, like the levels, the sort of performances and the players. When the guy who was on the park for 3 minutes, less than 3 minutes, and went after an injury, got a higher match rating than the entire Rangers team. So listen, the hurt and the moon howling after them since that victory has been absolutely astronomical. We've seen videos of Rangers shirts being set on fire or attempted to be set on fire.
Oh, it's horrendous, isn't
it? We've heard radio call-ins and other various things about Gio needing to go or they didn't turn up. Every excuse under the sun to try and make them feel better.
Both my work claims Rangers Gio's a European manager now and not a league manager. I actually think Van Bronckhorst, like when I hear him talking, I kind of annoyingly like him.
I like Van
Bronckhorst. I annoyingly like him when he talks. He talks a lot of sense, but see when the boy from
a classic guy.
Day, when the boy said
best friends with the king.
Like, I know. Oh no. But it's one of the ones, Anthony. It's like when they come manager of Rangers, not you're meant to know like them.
True.
You're meant to know like him, but he's honest enough at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Yep. So it leaves us 5 points clear. We've just hit September. It's a fantastic position to be in. I said it earlier on in the season as well. It's like it wouldn't surprise me if we go this season unbeaten. I think as it stands at the minute, and just 38 unbeaten, which is a full SPFL season. Essentially, since who was the last loss against? Was it Hearts?
Livingston.
Livingston.
So since that game, he's went a full season unbeaten, right? And it shows absolutely no sign of letting up. But the next big test is tomorrow night, where we welcome the current Champions League holders, the Galacticos, are Real Madrid, to Celtic Park for the first time since the 80s. Anthony, I'll come to you first. You've managed to get hold of tickets, I believe.
I have.
And you will be attending this game, much to most people's hurt or whatever, jealousy. Are you looking forward to it, mate? Just give your thoughts on the game itself. First of all, the occasion. Celtic Park again, under the lights, Champions League nights, opening the account against the current champions, Real Madrid. Just do your thing, mate.
John, there's no other term to describe it other than box office. It's everything we wanted in the draw. You know, we did the live watch along a couple of weeks ago when the draw was made, and I jumped on just as I got in for work, but I was watching all you guys right for the start. That was the draw that we wanted. I wanted Real Madrid, and then preferably, anything else would have been a bonus, but thankfully we've managed to get two ties that I think are potentially, on paper at least, very winnable. So it's going to be an absolutely fantastic group to be involved in. The Champions League, of course, is where we believe that we belong. There is no other experience in football for me other than Celtic Park on a Champions League night. Much has been made the last few months of the atmosphere across the road. That's small time compared to what you're about to see tomorrow night. It's going to be the first Champions League night under the disco lights. And what an occasion for it to be. Like you say, the reigning holders, the 14-time winners, you know, they've won it twice as much as the team that have won it the second most amount of times in AC Milan. In terms of football and aristocracy, they are the top dogs. They are the kings. It's like the Undertaker at WrestleMania, John. It's not just his playground. This is their playground. This is where they shine. And I would be lying if I say that I'm not a teensy bit nervous about what potentially could happen. But what I do hope, and I'm not saying this in a criticism of the way against Barcelona, because we all remember it was one of the one of the greatest nights in our history when we beat Barcelona that night at Celtic Park. But the way it was, you know, we won it with 11% possession, and I think we were up the park 3 times and scored twice. And maybe that is all we could do against that Barcelona team. You know, they just they absolutely took the ball off you kept the ball off you full time, passed it about. They played fantasy football for real. You know, I appreciate we can't be gung-ho tomorrow night, but I'm hopeful that we'll have more of an opportunity on the ball where we can play the way that Ange likes to play. I don't see any benefit to us trying to shut up shop and hope for the best. And I don't think it's in Ange's DNA anyway. You know, it minds you a bit of Cool Runnings. You know, when the Jamaicans play their own game, they beat the record. When they try and copy the Swiss, you know, the whole thing falls apart. So I think tomorrow night, you know,
that's the last thing I ever thought I would hear tonight.
I'm just trying to think of in terms of playing to your own strengths. You know, we don't know any other way except taking the ball and taking the fight to them. We might end up with a bloody nose on the back of it, but I'd rather we won or lost or draw on our terms. But you know, all you can say to everyone that's going, I mean, I can't wait. It's going to be my wee boy's first time in the Champions League as well. My mate's away on his holidays, so I've managed to acquire another ticket. So it'll be the 3 generations tomorrow night, me, my dad, and my wee boy. So can't wait. It's going to be one for the ages. As I say, they don't come around very often. The Kings of Europe. It's 1980 was the last time they came to Celtic Park. Be nice if we had a similar scoreline to that night. Everyone, you know, a certain generation will remember it as the Johnny Doyle game. But yeah, I can't wait, John. It's going to be everything that we want it to be and more, I think. And as our greatest ever captain says, there's a fairy tale element to Celtic, and every so often it raises its wee head now and again. And I've got everything crossed that hopefully, you just never know, it might come round again. Yep. Here's hoping.
Absolutely, mate. I'm welling up. No, listen, I think that we could agree that we're all absolutely buzzing. But I mean, just moving on a wee, I'm obviously wary of the time. What would you, if you're Ange, you're in the dressing room, you're about to step out onto the field against Real Madrid. What names are you putting on the team sheet?
But God, I think the back 4. I think would be. I think we'll probably pick it. So he might go with Jens, just with being a bit more of a. You know, he's a bit more.
It's been confirmed. I think Starfelt's definitely out. He's got a knee injury, so he's
right. There you go. I think the back 4 picks itself. Then I think Gregory's in great form. Juranovic is, you know, our kind of first choice right back, and the other 2 sort of pick themselves. Then obviously McGregor will start. You know, after all what I was saying about Abada on Friday night about, you know, you might need Maeda for the press and whatnot. I'm kind of loath to drop him, but at the same point, I think you might need Maeda tomorrow night for that extra work rate as well. But then again, you maybe don't have that potency up front. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it might be the same team from Saturday. Obviously with Jens in for Starfelt and Giakoumakis for Kyogo, because just you know, as a precaution. But whatever team he goes with, you know, they know they're going into the lines. Then they're going up against the absolute top dogs. But don't be fearful. Embrace it. Go make your own history. This is going to be a night that will live with them long after their careers finish. You know, even some of the players now that are just coming into retirement still talk about, you know, the Barcelona night being the greatest night of their career. Here's hopeful that this generation can have something like that tomorrow night. And I can absolutely assure you, everyone in the stands is going to be doing everything they can to help them.
Absolutely. And Francis, what about yourself? Just tell me, what's your thoughts on the game itself? How are you feeling about it? And what would your lineup be?
I'm buzzing for the game. Buzzing. We're back in the Champions League, back at the top table and stuff. So, and there's no other way to start it, I suppose. You've not been in it for a few years. You may as well just go against the the Champions League team, the team that just know this competition better than anybody and just seem to just love this competition. And then, like Anthony said, under the lights at Parkhead, it'll be a great occasion. I just hope it doesn't turn into a touristy atmosphere. Like I just want it to be hostile. I think it's going to be like a proper atmosphere. And I mean, it could be in it, and we could get a famous night. We could get what you maybe expect and get gubbed off Real Madrid, which at the end of the day, they'll date to a few teams.
They've done it to far better teams.
Exactly. So it's one of them.
And
like,
there's no shame.
No,
totally, John.
As long
as you give a good account of yourself.
Exactly. I don't believe we will go and try and just hang in. Like, I'm not wanting to slate Neil Lennon against Barcelona, because I think tactically it was a masterclass for Lennon. He defended the width for the 18-yard box and said to Barcelona, cross it in and try and beat us that way. And then you're getting a wee bit of luck because you need to try and play for set pieces and the counter attack and things like that. I don't believe Ange's he'll do that. He's kind of alluded to that in his interview. He said, "What's the point of me doing that? What's the point of changing the way I play? I'm as well as having a go and getting beat than sitting back and getting beat. At least if you've had a go, you can go, well, we try to do it." Like I say, as long as we don't, I don't believe he'll do a Brendan Rodgers and try and go toe for toe with a Barcelona and PSG and get absolutely annihilated. But it's Ange's, the beauty with Ange now, he's got us thinking we can beat Real Madrid, but equally probably get beat at Almondvale off Levy. It's a weird situation with Ange now. Well, I say with Ange, nobody can beat us now, but just so the way you seem to be as a Celtic fan, it's how you can beat. You think you've got to beat Real Madrid, but you'd probably worry more if you were playing Livingston than more at the Tony Macaroni. So I think, I mean, I'm maybe not as confident as a lot of folk, John. So I'm hoping I've actually put 2-1 to Real Madrid in my Super Six. So I'm hoping I get no points in that game, because then that's obviously been a good night. But I'm looking forward to it, John. But I'm not as confident as a lot is in the group chat, and so I'm hoping I'm wrong. But I think team wise, the back four, obviously, like Anthony, it picks itself, especially with Starfelt being injured. If it's obviously got to be Jens that comes in there. The midfield three again, I think he's got to stick with what played on Saturday with Callum McGregor, Hatate and O'Reilly. Maybe Moy might coming back. I honestly can't see it. I think he's got to keep that midfield three. I don't know if it's being controversial, but I'm going to put Maeda in instead of Abada. I think he's just got to be as much as I think Ange doesn't worry about other teams. Real Madrid's a wee bit of a different animal. I think he's got to try play Maeda to maybe for more for his defensive work, and I think Giakoumakis will start. And purely Giakoumakis, I'm putting down as I'm just not too sure if Kyle's going to be 100% fit for it. So I think the front, like the midfield three, will be the same as Saturday, and the front three I'm having Maeda, Giakoumakis, and Jota. But if Abada starts, I mean, I'm not going to say he shouldn't be starting at the end of the day. He's fucking got 5 goals in his last 3 games, man. So.
No, listen, and again, this is what the point I was making earlier about.
It's healthy debate, John. It's healthy debate.
That's it. And when a player's on form and he's scoring goals like that, you're kind of you're in two minds. Do I drop him? Do I know? But I understand what you mean about Maeda. I think we said that the European game certainly plays more to his strengths. Teams are going to be much more open. We won't be playing as high, which gives him more kind of room to run by players, and maybe we can see his pace getting utilised to the best of his ability, and sort of using his ability to sort of chase the ball and press, defend for the front and things like that, kind of work in our favour. But listen, guys, I don't want to leave it too much. I understand there's another podcast on at this time. Bhoys is starting.
The boys will just be getting underway now. Yep.
Well, it's about 10 past these intro finishes, I think. But no, listen, it'll be absolutely fantastic chat. I'm not sure what the plan is. If we get a result against Madrid tomorrow night,
who knows?
We'll maybe try and jump on for a wee quick reaction or something. because we'll all be absolutely flying if anybody's available. But I listen. One last thing as well. The Super 6 thing is mentioned. There's midweek games, Champions League games on the Super 6 this week. If you are a member, make sure you get your scores in. I keep forgetting. I'm shocking at it. If you've not joined
never
yet,
catching me anyway.
if you've not joined yet, the league code's there. You can just download the Super 6 app, type in the league code, you'll automatically get into the league. I think there's some like 24 or 25 is now. So it's good laugh, and there might be a prize. I think we're looking to get a prize at the end of it for the overall winner, unless it's Francis. You can't win it if it's the podcast held thing.
You can't claim it's a fix, but no,
you can't. You don't know what you're talking about, or you don't. But listen, no, guys, thank you everybody for joining. Thank you for tuning in again. To everybody that's viewing us. If you're new here as well, please hit like on the video. It helps us a lot. Hit subscribe. You'll get notifications of all future episodes. We're live every Monday, Friday at the minute at 8 o'clock. We've got other episodes you can check out, guest specials, special guests, quiz stuff, all sorts, man. It's a good laugh. Aye, but anyway, on to tomorrow. Let's hope that we get the result we're all kind of hoping for. Hail, hail.